In this video, we're going to discuss scaling our campaigns, ad sets, and ads. And there's basically three things you can do to scale these things. You can, of course, adjust your budget, you can adjust your audience, and you can adjust your objectives. Plus, of course, you could do a combination of these three things. For example, if you are changing your audience or increasing your audience, you will likely be changing your budget and so on. So you can do a combination as well. First thing we're going to do is discuss budget scaling, which is kind of like the simplest form of scaling. Basically, you increase your budget, you get more results, kind of. It's not quite as simple as just increasing your budget and you'll get more results. I mean, that'd be nice and awesome, but of course that's not how things go because the audience changes and the dynamics change as your budgets change. So for scaling with your budget, you can go ahead and increase your budget 20% every 3 days. Any more than that and Facebook's algorithm will get thrown off track and it'll have to readjust and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So you could really screw up your ads if you just, quadrupled your budget overnight. Facebook's not going to know what to think and it'll go haywire and your scaling efforts will probably go wasted. So if you're just trying to increase your budget on a proven ad set, it's 20% every 3 days. Now, if you're spending $3 a day when testing your ad sets out, well, scaling 20% every 3 days, it's going to take you months before you get up to like $100 a day. So another way you could go ahead and scale your budget is by duplicating the ad set that is working, pausing that old ad set, and having a big budget on the new ad set. So if you had ad set working at $3 a day, you would just pause that one, duplicate it, and set that new one at $50 a day or whatever your new budget is and turn that one on and let it run. Now when you do this, you do need to have some patience because it's not going to just like pick up right where you left off. You're going to want to give it at least 3 days at that new budget and hopefully you can get 50 conversions in those 3 days so Facebook's algorithm can kind of take over your ad set and adjust things and start really honing in and getting you the best results. So if you're scaling your budget this way, don't freak out when your new ad set doesn't work right out of the gate. You need to have some patience and give it those 3 days and 50 conversions. Another way to scale your budget is by simply duplicating the ad set a bunch of times. So you have a working ad set and you're spending $3 a day on it, and you want to spend $21 a day, let's just say. You would simply duplicate that ad set 6 more times, so you'd have 7 ad sets, all spending $3 a day. It would have the same targeting options, it would have the same ad, etc. You just have 7 duplicates of the same thing. Now there is some risk involved with doing it this way because you are going to be competing against yourself. So your CPM rates, or cost per 1,000 impression rates, could go up, especially if you have a smaller audience. Now if you have a giant audience of like 10 million people or so, this method could work just right out of the gate. However, if you have a smaller audience, like less than probably 2 million, if you do this method, you could start to see some adverse effects and your CPM will start to increase. So one way to get around this is to add a tweak to your ad set. And so let's say you are making 7 duplicates of the same ad set, but within each of those ad sets, you're going to want to set up a placement or demographic option that is unique to that ad set. So that way your ad sets aren't overlapping. So for example, with placement, one ad set could be mobile newsfeed, another ad set could be desktop newsfeed, another option could be desktop right column, another option could be mobile messenger, another option could be desktop messenger, and so on. So you select these different placements, and by doing that, your ad sets aren't going to compete against themselves. And also this kind of sets up a split test. Now you could actually see which placement works best. Of course, you could also tweak the ad sets by gender, so males versus females, or you could have each ad set respond to a different age or age range. So again, that way you're not overlapping your ad sets and competing against yourself. Same thing with location and so on. And like I mentioned before, this is also a good way to go about split testing the different variables so you can really hone in on what works. And then of course you can scale based on your audience. So you could create lookalike audiences. So if you have a list of leads or customers or visitors or something like that, and you want to create an audience that looks like those people, you can set that up. And you could also scale these audience sizes. Like you could do 1% of the population, 2%, 3%, 4%, etc. So you get those larger audiences. But they look like the person that you built that lookalike audience off of. So hopefully they're a good quality audience. Of course, another way to go ahead and scale your audience size is by selecting broader interests. Now, throughout the course, I always talked about specific interests. Like you want to use names of things, like names of people, names of movies, names of magazines, names of software, names of websites, etc. But if you want to scale your audience up, maybe instead of typing in a bunch of entrepreneur names, you go ahead and just type in entrepreneurship, which is a big, giant, broad category, probably 200 million people inside of it. And there you go, you scaled your audience size. And the last one to talk about is objective scaling. So basically you would change the objective of your campaign or your ad set, and instead of going after, say, conversions, you'd go after clicks. Or instead of going after clicks, you'd go after engagements. And by doing that, you'll target like different groups of people within your audience, and that could be a good way to scale your campaigns and ad sets and ads. So that's it in regard to scaling. The main thing is to have some patience here. When you make big changes or adjust things, it does take Facebook a few days to adjust to what you've done. So the key is to not freak out as soon as you make those changes and it looks like it's going downhill. Give it those 3 days or the 50 conversions to start to bounce back and hopefully take off.